In this video, you'll see an example coaching conversation after a prepare to read lesson in a secondary ELD classroom. Then we'll break down each section so you can see what to say, why it works, and how to lead it with confidence. We'll move through the same coaching sequence you'll use with your teachers. Every coaching conversation follows the sequence: praise and follow-up, evidence, action step, practice, and closing. Let's start with praise and follow-up. Thanks for meeting with me. I want to start with something that went really well. Last time we talked, we discussed assigning partners for Vocabulary Routine 2, which asked them to be an expert using a graphic organizer. I didn't get to see that today, but tell me how that's going.
I have been really trying to make that part tighter, but I'm still working out the kinks. They still struggle to talk verbally because of the language barriers, but they are getting used to my expectations.
I definitely saw evidence of that today. I saw students got into the discussion faster. Would you agree? In the praise and follow-up portion of the coaching conversation, you follow up on past action steps, present evidence of positive teacher action, and describe the specific impact that the teacher action had on students. The point here is to celebrate progress and reflect on the actions that most impact student learning in that classroom. Next comes evidence. This is the part of the coaching process where the coach names what happened in the lesson that they observed, where they took low inference notes. In my notes, the lesson moved from the objective straight into vocabulary, which in this case was Vocabulary Routine 1. Prepare to read lessons always include a guiding question and a first thoughts exercise, but I noticed that you skipped it.
You're right. I skipped that part because I was worried about time, and I went straight into the vocabulary.
I see. Thinking about the goals of the ELD classroom, reading, writing, speaking, and listening, what may be the intention behind the first thoughts exercise?
Honestly, I haven't spent much time even understanding first thoughts. It kind of felt like an extra, like it wasn't core to the lesson.
That's okay. This is a learning process. Let's dive a bit more into the first thoughts then, and see how we can leverage it in your classroom to help you reach your overall goals with your kids. In the evidence portion of the coaching conversation, you present evidence from low inference notes, identify the gap in instruction, and build the case for change that leads to the action step. At its core, evidence is simply about aligning on the problem we are solving to lead us to the action step. There are many ways to do that, including asking thoughtful questions, analyzing student work, or reviewing data. Now we move into the action step section. In a typical first thoughts routine, students read the directions, work on a task in their book, sometimes in groups and sometimes independently, and discuss it. This may take us a couple of weeks to master. For this week, let's just get some of the mechanics down.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
So here's our action step. Go ahead and write it down. Every time you open a prepare to read lesson, open with a first thoughts exercise. Read the directions aloud. Cold call to read. Release the students to complete the work, independently or in groups. Identify 2, 3 students share responses with the class. How does this sound so far?
That gives me a much more specific starting point.
In the action step portion of the coaching conversation, you clearly define the action step, name the impact, and break down the action step. The goal is simple and actionable clarity. Now we're in practice. This is where the coach models, plans, and rehearses the move with the teacher. Let me show you what this looks like in action. I found the first thoughts exercise by opening National Geographic. Now, I'm going to rehearse it. Sarah, read our directions under first thoughts. Please, Jeremy, can you repeat our directions? Okay, go. Awesome. Now, let's hear from 2 of you about what you wrote down.
I can do that. I think my biggest move will be keeping the directions short so students get into the routine quickly.
Great. Now it's your turn. Take the action step you wrote and pull up the first thoughts exercise, and let's do it. In the practice portion of the conversation, there are several components. First, you model the action step. Then the teacher takes time to plan. Finally, you take it live. The teacher practices the action step to mastery while you provide direct feedback. Now we're in closing. This is where you determine follow-up, restate the action step, and build excitement for what's next. I'll look for that in my next walkthrough, and we can reflect on how the first thoughts shaped student participation and their orientation towards the lesson.
I look forward to seeing how first thoughts gets them into each prepare to read lesson. Thanks for your help.
In the closing portion of the conversation, there are several components. First, you restate the action step, then determine the follow-up. Finally, generate excitement for what the action step can mean for students. Each section of this coaching conversation had a job to do, and together they moved from affirmation to a concrete next step.